Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Scouser Tommies. I'm Jim Boardman, and as always I'm with Jay Reid, and if this is your first time listening to us, welcome. Hope you enjoy it, hope you stick around, and by all means send us some feedback if you like. You know, we've got thick skins, we can take it, can't we, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, it would be, be a Scouse mentality if you can't give it and take it at the same time. So if you're going to put your mouth out there, you've got to be prepared to have your ear bashed as well.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? I mean, that's why, well, we've mentioned, let's get them out of the way early. That's why Evertonians, I think, are so mouthy, because they lash out a lot, and they just dig a bigger hole for themselves, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, they don't get to buy a podcast each week that we record every other weekend without mentioning the blue side. And they are quite shouty, but for once, I am going to give them a tad bit of credit. Yesterday, I was out walking a dog up on Everton Brow because we partnered at a hospital visit, so to kill the time rather than sitting in the car, I took the dog for a little walk. And their stadium is being built. I didn't know how far along it is, but it's mighty impressive. It's quite the structure that they're putting up there, to be fair, on the waterfront, and it does stand out like a sore thumb so far. But whether they have any joy in that, we will see. But all I can say is it's going to be, from what the distance look of this metal structure going up, it looks a lot better than the wooden thing that was over the other side of the hill that I dare not cross and have a look at.
Yeah.
So, if we are going to mention the Blues with any sort of semblance of credit, then it seems like they've got themselves something that potentially could be good. The rest of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, whether it's just going to be like a sheep in wolf's clothing or not, that stadium for them, we'll have to find out, won't we? I mean, maybe the stadium will look good, and I don't know. But it's needed. It's needed. That's one thing about football. I do say about Everton, actually, is that it surprised me it's taken so long for them to kind of find some money, for want of a better way of putting it, because with the Premier League being what it is and the amount of money it generates, it surprised me it's taken so long for them to get someone in. With a bit more money, you can kind of help that grow, and that, I know that kind of went sideways, and everything that went on in Russia and all that's not helped. But as much as we dislike a lot of things about them, it wouldn't be the same without them, would it? So we've got to wish them well with that.
I suppose they do live in the past a lot. The glory days. They hark back to the 80s because, since 1995, nothing's really happened for the poor lads. So a stadium befitting of those that live in the past. But yeah, they've got to play catch up. If you're being brutally honest, there's a couple of teams that come up and down, the likes of, say, Bournemouth and maybe Norwich, with stadiums that befitting for the Championship, not really befitting of the Premier League and the whole spectacle and glory that it is. So Everton really are lagging behind in what's left in the modern game. There's not many teams with small, ramshackled stadiums with several bollards of restricted views, although if you are an Everton fan, maybe restricted view isn't such a bad thing at the moment.
Yeah, I think they charge more for those tickets now, don't they? So you can go and hide from
You could either have a restricted view or a balaclava. It's your choice.
Yeah, the balaclava's good in case you get on telly, then no one recognises you. But I think the stadium's just one part of the jigsaw, though. I think with what's made a difference in the Premier League, like going back to those days when Everton could win things, which was before the Premier League was invented, which for some people was when football was invented. But going back to those days, it wasn't just that we had those stadiums that needed updating. It was the way that commercial things were exploited. And I think back when the Premier League started, there was a lot of resistance. Certainly I can remember people going mad that there was a McDonald's logo appeared on the side of the Kop, because the Kop had been rebuilt as what we see it as now from the old standing version. And part of the work that was done was a little McDonald's was in the Kop, which seems mad to think. I do wonder if that really happened or whether I was drinking too much.
That was good.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that. I mean, it was a nightmare to be said, much worse than what it probably is nowadays, even though it can be a bit chaotic. But yeah, McDonald's in the Kop, that invokes some weird memories.
But I don't think anyone was too bothered about the Mackies in the Kop, but the Mackies logo on the side of the Kop was what wound people up, and that, I think, I don't know how long afterwards that went eventually, and we've not bothered putting any sort of sponsor sort of logos in that position as far as I know since. And it's kind of, it's the stand that's, I don't think the stand will ever have a sponsor's name. I might be wrong, but I don't think it will. Or even, I think it'd just be the Kop. It'll either not have a sponsor's name or it'll not be named after a person. Like we've got the old Centenary stand, or the old Kemlin, some of us call it, is now Sir Kenny's stand. But that commercial side, we as a club, we sat back and watched other clubs, particularly that one down the East Lancs, exploit every single bit of money they could, and squeeze everything out of the fans and companies and so on to get every penny they could make. They didn't just rebuild Old Trafford and keep adding bits to it. They rebuilt the commercial side, and it took us a long time to catch up to that. And I suppose now we're at a point where you've maybe got to sort of hope that your club doesn't go and get themselves a dodgy sponsor. And at a push, the latest one announced by Liverpool, you could maybe say is dodgy, because obviously, well, it's Coca-Cola, and if you get full fat Coke, you're getting a lot of calories in this brown fizzy drink, aren't you? And there's a lot of people frowning upon that, but they tend to kind of push the other stuff now, like the Coke Zero and the Diet Coke. So I don't know, it feels like it's been a long time coming, this as a sponsor, because I can remember, well, for one thing, I remember us winning the Coca-Cola Cup, and you could get sort of Liverpool-themed shirts with the Coke logo on. But there was a long spell where people thought that was going to be our next big sponsor, and that was going to be on the front of the shirts. And this sponsorship doesn't do that. But from what you've been saying, people have already started the mock-ups of the shirts with Coca-Cola on the front.
Yeah, and I think the statement sort of released from Liverpool regarding the announcements is obviously two famous red and white brands. So yeah, it's an easy shoe-in for people to mock up with these kits, and depend on your personal opinion of football kits. The ones that fans make and put out there on social media is often much more of an eye appeal to those that we actually do end up getting put into the club shop and what the lads wear on the pitch from week in, week out. So, a Coke logo on a red shirt is a natural, seamless fit. But yeah, you're right in saying it has been a long time coming. Like, maybe the most famous brand of the modern era that we're associated with is probably Carlsberg, because we had that on our shirts for several years. If you ask the average man in the streets what is Standard Chartered, excuse me, I'm not sure. Many people would honestly say they know what they are. They might know they're a bank. They might know they're sort of a financial investment firm, or they might just not know what they are at all. They might say they're a building society or something. Like it's a mystery in terms of an English or a British big brand. I mean, you only have to go back for the years of what Man United, for example, to reference them again, like the likes of Vodafone and Sharp back in the day, obviously as a technology arm, and they always seem to be turning over their sponsorships, and even those around the pitch and around on the stadium and stuff like that. They have a lot of global brands, and that's one thing I think maybe you could question Liverpool on. Have we got these massive global names, or is something that we want? I don't know. It doesn't probably fit the ethos of the club and the people and the city that it represents, that we aren't overly flashy. We're quite happy with what we've got. We're quite happy with, some sort of maybe smaller, underappreciated associations and brands, and we like to grow our own success. Again, representative of the people, I would say, around the city and the club. But the question on the other hand will always be asked, well, we've got to compete with clubs who are funded by oil states who are inventing sponsorships, in one of a word, that we can't compete with in a realistic way because they're cheating the system. So we've got to find other ways to do it. And if getting into bed really with a massive soft drink ban is an avenue which we are going to explore, which could give us some more commercial revenue, I don't suppose it would be a bad thing. The question I would have is, we have the issue regarding Mo Salah's contract in the summer, and there was words to be said that maybe it was regarding image rights and stuff like that. That was the sticking point, and I don't know how that figured out. So I don't know what image rights Liverpool have got, Mo Salah's got. That's probably not something that we'll ever know, but he is connected to Pepsi as a brand. He does a lot of Pepsi adverts with Lionel Messi and stuff like that. So,
yeah, they're Champions League sponsors as well, aren't they? Or they were.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine we'll see Coca-Cola, Mo Salah sort of advertisements, but we've got plenty of other commercially desirable players that we can probably put out there, and it's not something that I think it's going to make too much headlines, unless the Anfield Road end is going to be called the Coca-Cola Anfield Road stand, which I think, bringing it full circle back to the McDonald's and the Cop thing, I think it will be something that would maybe rattle a few cages, but I think every match-going fan or Liverpool fan would probably still call it the Anfield Road, regardless of what they put on there. I think the four stands, as you say, you still refer to the Centenaries, the Kemlin, and it's the Kenny Dalglish stand, but I would still say it's the Centenary stand on occasions. It's just whatever's in your mind. So who knows where the sponsorship goes? But I think at the end of the day, a business decision has been made, and if it gives us more financial clout to maybe recruit some players, then I don't think you'll hear many arguments from the majority of the fan base.
No, and I think keeping the names out of it, I think I look at, there's a stadium in Bolton. Well, actually, it's in a place called Horwich, from what some people say, but it's up there anyway. And I think of it as the Reebok Stadium, but they haven't been sponsored by Reebok in years. I think it's something like the University of Bolton Stadium now, but that stadium's never had a name, really, that you would know of. Like the Emirates has never had a name, and the Etihad has, for a long time, not really had a name. It did have a name for a while. These sort of, I don't know, there's something not quite right about that in my view. I think everybody knows that we play at Anfield. That is where we play. It's Anfield. And if there's a big sponsor involved with us, they kind of get associated with that without having to have the name on the stadium. So I just hope we never go down that line. And I think, like you were saying then about some clubs having fake sponsors, which we all know is a kind of, which one of our other companies can we pretend to sponsor our club now? We've not done that. And I'm just looking at a list of sponsors on the Liverpool website now, and I'll be honest, I don't recognise all of them, but there's none jumping out at me that are kind of, FSG's little side projects or anything. Maybe there are, I don't know, but they don't look like that way. I mean, on this one, and I imagine you get, from what I can remember, it always used to be on the LFC website. If you were in different parts of the world, you might see different sponsors, because we might have a sponsor who only does Europe or only does the Middle East and so on. But on the one I'm looking at, there's Carlsberg, Wasabi, Vista, Johnson's, The Cleaners, Sonos, EA Sports. There's loads. I've not even named them all. And Nivea Men, which of course we can't forget because of the way that they made Adam Lallana look so strange that time. But Quorn, Cadbury. I think Cadbury.
Have we still got Dunkin' Donuts?
I can't see it. Sure. I can't see it. Yeah, that's no sign of that. And that's a shame in a way, because they opened a shop in Liverpool, didn't they? And didn't really open that many more.
But that was, I think that was, the major American brand of, it's not huge in the UK, but it's big in America from my time of being there. But that was the one.
Do you remember when
that was the one
that
the only sort of really ventured into was Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, and Dunkin' Donuts, when they launched the partnership, they sort of tried to rework the Liverpool badge and completely messed up by changing the Eternal Flames in the Liverpool crest to milkshakes, I think it was. And, so lacking understanding of what they were doing. And I just find that shocking because I can't help but think that big brands talk to each other before anything goes out. And I mean, we can laugh at, well, not laugh, we can complain at Dunkin' Donuts for basically, replacing Eternal Flames for the 96 as it was at the time with milkshake cups. I mean, that was just such a bad thing to do, but why weren't they warned? And that maybe also says a lot about the club as well, because things like this happen, but then things like this get fixed. And I think that's one thing I've enjoyed about being a Liverpool fan in this era, is that, yeah, things go wrong, but hands get held up, efforts get made, and things get fixed near enough with everything. So, I mean, you can list a load of mistakes that the owners have made or the people running the club have made, but you can't kind of list that many that are still there now, can you? There's the thing about ticket pricing, they listened. The thing about the European Super League, did they clearly listen to that? And as I've just said now, other sponsors sacrileging our badge, if that's the right word, that's also stopped as well. So they do learn, and that's an ethos running right the way through the club, isn't it? All the way down to Klopp and his players and him, learning from mistakes. Things go wrong, things get fixed.
Yeah, you can't knock them too much in terms of the reaction to things, especially commercially and stuff like that. When things have been questioned, they do tend to listen. On the whole, I mean, there's underlying issues that I think the American approach to sport and business will always be different to that of the English. American sports on the whole are set up in a much different sort of environment, and the way the whole system works. Obviously, the lack of promotion relegation is the big thing that is different to sports pretty much all around the world, especially football. Obviously, the MLS has grown in the last 15, 20 years from probably a handful of clubs to now several, and I think they have got a league below the MLS, like a development sort of thing for up and coming clubs to go through and then be promoted or included into the franchise system, however it works over there. I'm not entirely sure, but it is something that obviously that you'll have people like Gary Neville stand on the soapbox claiming the pyramid needs to be protected and stuff like that, and there's a lot of American interest and investment in English sport. They're not going to change that. I think it's all standing there for the reasons of getting your voice out there in the public domain. Sky haven't had any games to show recently, so Gary Neville's been off doing other things, trying to be a politician with the Labour Party conference, and I think it's probably one of the few times Gary Neville's come to the city of Liverpool and probably been heard and listened and probably clapped off stage and not booed and heckled for some of the things he said. But it's one of the things we've said it several times. FSG are by far not the worst owners by any means of football clubs currently in the domestic and international game. So for everything they do wrong or questionable, they do tend to sort of fix it in one way or another, or seem to look like they're trying to fix things, and there'll always be stuff that we'll never be happy about. But if you wouldn't be a football fan if you weren't complaining about one thing or another, and imagine being a Blue.
Yeah. God, yeah, trying to argue whether you're going to have home and bargain on the front or B&M bargains on the front of your shirt. So not even on that, Talking to sponsors, though, something else, it's a little bit off topic for us in some ways, but it's not in others, because I think it's going to hit home to a lot of people who are involved with AI and a lot of listeners to AI podcasts, which is, I only caught this yesterday, Hummel Sport, who are the kit manufacturers for the Danish national team, got together with the Danish national team and basically toned down all the details for the new World Cup shirts. So the logo is barely visible. The Hummel logo, the Denmark badge is barely visible. It's a red shirt that from a distance you'd think had no branding on it whatsoever. And it's just because, as they put it, it's a protest against Qatar and its human rights record. We don't want to be visible during a tournament that's cost thousands of people their lives, They're supporting the Danish national team all the way, but it's not the same as supporting Qatar as a host nation. And as it says, we believe sport should bring people together, and when it doesn't, we want to make a statement. And I think that's really powerful because, you know, it says a hell of a lot about everyone involved in that, doesn't it? And about why this World Cup is so wrong.
Yeah, it's actually a really nice shirt, considering it's blanked out, and it all red. The nominal home shirt and the away shirt is all black, but there's something quite elusive and quite nice about an all black strip. Remember Alisson in that black and gold goalkeeper's outfit, that just looked quite imposing and quite dominant on him anyway, because he's quite the stature.
Kits. Yeah, he is. And I'm just going to say quickly, they've got retro kits in the club shop that are kind of blacked out. Which
yeah,
they look I think.
You do get some nice stuff. But yeah, onto the message of what Hummel are sending. It's powerful in terms of, you know, that they're making a statement, and I think that obviously you've got the likes of Harry Kane as England captain and other nation captains saying they're going to wear an armband, and, you know, is an armband really overly visible, and is it just, you know, media posturing for media's sake of doing it because it seems to be the right thing? But will
FIFA let them, you know, because remember, FIFA have always clamped down, and UEFA have clamped down. I mean, I remember Robbie and Steve McManaman wearing T-shirts supporting the Dockers, getting into trouble probably off the FA, and then you hear so many other times when people are in trouble for political statements. You know, you can't sort of support Ukraine in the war, you know, in some sort of football authorities' eyes. You know, there's so much of this where you can't make a political statement, and, you know, armbands are one thing, but I think this gets around anything that FIFA might try and say, that you can't sort of publicly protest.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? Make them not play for another competition? I mean, I was listening to TalkSport this morning for an hour or so, and they were debating the topic, and I only tend to listen to that station when Simon Jordan's on, because I think I've said it in the past, he says some crazy things, but he does say quite a lot of sense, and he come up with a quotation that, you know, Qatar, you can't host a party without expecting someone to rummage around your stuff. And, you know, Qatar have opened themselves up. They openly want this World Cup for whatever reason or another. That can be debated till the cows come home. But they're happy to have this World Cup. And with that comes the criticism, comes the insight into your country and how you are dealing with things, how you've built the stadiums, the cost of lives on people who have built these stadiums rightfully or wrongly in their opinions. But it's been an effect that has not been good. Obviously, the human rights issues that goes on in that part of the world as well isn't right. So, you know, you will have people standing up and saying their own word, and, you know, the Scandinavian countries are very strong in their beliefs, and they do come out with a lot of good things in terms of how they would like to portray messages. So, you know, you can't open yourself up and say we would like the World Cup, but however we want this and this. Football, the message out there is football is for everyone, and it really is. And at this current time, football on the rise, you know, women's game is improved massively. That we've still got a huge issue with racism. There's been another case this week with Richarlison playing for Brazil and being targeted by what you would say is Tunisian fans, because that's who they were playing in Paris. But, you know, things thrown at him, including a banana, harping back to the horrific images of the 80s, and that needs to be sorted out. But, you know, football is a game that brings the whole world together, and the World Cup is a special occasion, whether you're into international football or not. And you can't open your doors and say we want to host this tournament without having questions asked as to why you don't want certain things to be a certain way.
Yeah, and I think we've touched on it before as well. I mean, football is a lot of things, as well as being that game of 11 people on each side kicking the ball around for an hour and a half. It's a lot of good things as well. We've talked about it being a distraction from real life to just get you through your week and through your month and through your year when maybe things aren't great and in the real world, so to speak. But it's also, I mean, it's a sounding board. It's a place where people listen to people have views. I mean, Simon Jordan, as you said, is definitely someone who has views on him. And as you say, you won't always agree with him, but he'll say things and it certainly gets you thinking. And he's certainly not someone, I don't think he's just doing it for controversy. He probably really does think a lot of these things, but he opens our ears to things, and football opens your ears to things. And this is an opportunity to sort of say to the world that this isn't good enough. As people, we're sort of sending out a message as fans that these things are not good enough. It's got to stop. It's got to change. You've got to open your eyes to it. And I said this about, I think we both said this about Newcastle being under Saudi ownership, that if that had been us, what would we have done? And we probably, as much as we like to say otherwise, we'd have probably kind of accepted it. And once it was done, we'd have kind of accepted it. But all the way through that, we'd have been saying, you've got to change. You've got to be different. If you want to stay associated with us, you've got to show us that all these bad things about you are from the past, and you've got to start listening, and that would give us some power to change things. So I'm hoping, if there's one good thing to come out of the World Cup, it's that stuff like this basically makes Qatar and other nations like that, and and it's not just in that part of the world, there's plenty of nations like that, plenty of nations that want to be like that, run by people who want the nations like that, just to send out a message. It's not good enough, it can't be done anymore. I mean, maybe, to be honest with you, we need football to start sending out some messages like that back home as well. I mean, let's face it, we're not exactly a country that's run by wonderful people at the moment, are we? It just seems to getting from bad to worse, and I think we're going to need football to be a distraction all the more because, as you said, Gary Neville, round of applause, clapped off a stage in Liverpool. He was with Labour, but I mean, anything that's not Tory this week is going to be seen as popular, I think, by more people than ever before, probably in this nation.
Yeah, I mean, I think I put a tweet out last night saying obviously the effects of what's gone on from this so-called mini budget and clown government that we've got in place at the moment. If you've literally put the stake of your country on the line, and you've financially had to be interrupted by the bank of your country, surely that's grounds for sacking you on the job. Yeah. People lose their job for much less in this day and age, and this government are trying to put in more ways for you to even lose the job, and sometimes trying to justify it that they're helping the economy. Well, I don't know what economy you're trying to help, but unless it's your back pocket and your bank balance,
Cayman Islands, probably
nobody else is benefiting from the current situation in this country. And it's not just us in the UK who were going through a rough patch. There's a lot of countries around the world, but as a financial force, we are one of the biggest, most dominant, economies and countries in the world. But right now, we're becoming a laughingstock, and yeah, I think it's made even worse in the current climate as football fans on the football podcast that we're speaking of, that we've had no distraction of club football, and you've said many a time it's only 90 minutes, but it's what you build up your week to. It's what you discuss after the game for the next couple of days, and it's a blessing in one way that we're going into a month of October. I think we've got 9 games or something like that across the month, and you will have the likes of Klopp will always have a say on. There's already too many games, but like we said last season, you want to be playing every game because that means you're in with a chance of winning every single trophy. And whether it'll happen this season, probably not, because you need a lot of things to line up and all things go your way. And as we've started this season, it's not really gone that way for us. But the welcome return of football this Saturday, the Champions League next Tuesday, if I'm correct, is when Rangers come to town.
Yeah,
I think just those 2 games, and then we've got Arsenal and City on the horizon in the next couple of weeks. Football is well and truly back, and we've got, I think it's 8 weeks or something, 9 weeks until the World Cup. we're going to have to, really knuckle down and give it a good bash here, because, seasons are defined in periods of intensity, and we've got a high intense period. If you can hear some creepy alarm in the background, it's somebody's house alarm by me going off. But yeah, we really need to make the most of this, and I think now's the time that we do, and I think we're going to come into it now. We seem to be getting things in the right way in the injury department as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've said it in previous podcasts. Liverpool seem to come into their own when the games are thick and fast. I mean, Klopp will complain, as he should, I suppose, about fixtures coming really close. When we get that Wednesday night European fixture, then a lunchtime Saturday Premier League fixture, that's just pathetic, really, from football, that it can't find an answer to that. But that said, when we're getting games every few days, big games, intense games, we seem to thrive in that environment. I mean, that's kind of what does us good, and it has done before. I mean, I've always sort of thought back to that treble season of 2001. The games were just coming thick and fast, and every single game was important, and we just put everything in to every single game. And obviously, after the end of that, you're going to need a bit of time on the beach or something, and maybe they're not going to get the beach this time, but football being what it is, you don't get many Premier League games before some international games come along and take over. It's like you say, it's vital. These games are coming thick and fast, and then it's the World Cup. We've got to capitalise on this. We've got to make the most of it. I hope we've been sat back at Melwood, not licking our wounds, and it's not Melwood anymore, but I can't stop saying that. I hope we've been sat back at Kirkby, not licking our wounds, but actually looking at what we can do to fix things, that the players who didn't go away on international duty have had time to sort of, think about, different ways of improving the game and working on stuff, that fitness is starting to improve. And from what you were saying before as well, and what we've read today, there does look like a good sign that there's going to be, not going to be quite down to the bare bones like we have been of late this season. We're going to have a few important names coming back that, even if they're not going to start, they're going to be on the bench perhaps, and they're going to be sort of just doing that thing that is always a good thing in football. Footballers are competitive, and being competitive means being the one on the pitch and worrying about the one on the bench who could take the place.
Yeah, I think from all reports coming out over the last 24 hours as we record, it's Thursday. So we're prior to Klopp's press conference. When this podcast goes out, I'm sure Klopp will have had his press conference and updated the world on the current injury issues. But from what's been put out there in the public eye, Kanate looks like he's back in full training, or is due to resume full training at any immediate moment. Curtis Jones is back in the fold, hopefully. Robertson, maybe. I think there's a couple of question marks. I think Klopp will clear that up, but we all know there's an able deputy in Costas Tsimikas to fill in there. And surprise, surprise, Jordan Henderson didn't feature for England, even though he went to training camp or whatever. And, I questioned why he was going. Some people say, well, he's going for game time. Well, he didn't get any game time. I thought it was a bit of a risk for him to go and train where, we couldn't keep a close eye on him. But nothing seems to have come out of it.
He'll have been training against, highly finessed players like Harry Maguire, wouldn't he? And you just don't know what kind of injuries you're going to end up with in that.
Well, with the way he flings his feet around on his elbow, he doesn't know what day it is, never mind when he's playing the football. But yeah, I mean, if it was just to go and give him some competitive training, then so be it. I'm sure the club have justified it to themselves in whatever way they did. But if he's come back and he's sharper than what he was when he went, because he's been training on a daily basis, then I guess, maybe the outcome was positive in sending him to England. And then, just on the international front, we've had lads go away with the countries but not feature. So, you've not ran the risk of too much potential injury knocks. Obviously, Salah was freed up from international duty early and came back home. So he only had one game, and the likes of Fabinho and Firmino went to Brazil, albeit in France for their games, but didn't feature. Alisson did. But, maybe that just nails down who is the better Brazilian goalkeeper, as with Ederson. That's one for the City fans to try about. And then other lads, got game time. Jota, obviously, we all know he's coming back from a long layoff. He got 60 minutes on Tuesday, and he got a goal at the weekend. Diaz played for Colombia. But we've got several lads like Thiago, who's just come back from a layoff, who's been allowed to rest and recover. And you'd imagine, let's say we're recording Thursday lunchtime. Probably usually 4 or 5 o'clock tonight, we'll probably get the old training pictures of all the lads back at the training facility, and people will then be able to debate who is there, who isn't there. But I think what we can say with probably good confidence is going into the game against Brighton on Saturday, the bench will look a lot stronger than it has probably at any point this season. We've got options pretty much every position across the pitch, albeit maybe the full-backs are, obvious choices in Tsimikas and Trent Alexander-Arnold, but everywhere else I think there is healthy competition for places, and as you say, that can only be a positive thing. And going into a big run of games, we tend to be pretty good when we are rotating players. When we've been at our best in recent years, it's been times when Klopp and the coaching staff have maybe dropped in 2 or 3 changes a game and kept it fresh. So there's cause for a lot of optimism there.
Yeah, and I mean, just quickly on Trent, and we mentioned him in the last podcast, but obviously England have done us a massive favour by just leaving him sat on his arse on the bench for 2 games. Although Gary Lineker was fuming about it, I didn't expect an ex-Blue to be so scathing about a Liverpool player being left out. And I think as Liverpool fans, we take Trent for granted, I think, sometimes. And, he's not had his best season. I think even he would say that, but he's had some good moments in that season. And he's not had his best season at a time when no one at Anfield has had their best season. But it's interesting just to see what the reaction's been from England fans that, it seems to be sort of quite universal now that Trent should be playing for England. And that just seems weird because I'm just used to us always being slagged off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it. But on the other hand, I'm not really asked because it's England.
No. And as Jamie Carragher said once, okay, it's only England.
Yeah, and I mean, what was the statement? Southgate came out with Trippier is a better all-round player, I think it was, or footballer than Trent Alexander-Arnold. Well, as Gary Lineker has quoted, like he's all ears, and so am I for this one, because I genuinely don't know what Trippier is better at than Trent Alexander-Arnold. There's maybe a debate that can be had as set piece delivery and his dead ball striking is an option to say, he scored a couple of free kicks in his time at Newcastle. He put in a decent corner, and I think that's one thing that maybe Trent can improve on, especially for us, is, his dead ball delivery, but he's still a kid. He's still only 22, 23, something like that. Yeah, he rose onto the scene very quickly, but as an all-round footballer, I don't think you're going to find a better one in that position at all in world football. He's labelled a generational talent for a reason. He is redefining the right-back position. He's not a right wing-back, he is a right-back because we don't play wing-backs. He's the closest thing in terms of creativity that we've got to, Kevin De Bruyne. That's the comparison in the league, because Kevin De Bruyne is the most creative player really in our league at the moment, and people will then look at Trent Alexander-Arnold as the next, person on the ladder down from him, and there's no bigger compliment to that. So, if the man who is guiding England to 6 games without a win, and I think it's no clean sheets in 6 games and going into the World Cup, then if he's the oracle of knowledge and inspiration for this country, then best of luck to them in Qatar. And if he wants to leave Trent at home, that's absolutely fine. And there's been several pundits, players, whatever your opinion of them is in the game, not a lot of them are coming out in support for Gareth and saying that, leaving Trent out is the right thing to do, unless you are a staunch ally to Reece James, Kyle Walker or Kieran Trippier. Depending on your club preference. Anyone who realistically level-headed about football knows you'd rather have Trent in your football team than leave him on the bench or not have him in your squad at all. So, yeah, you've done us a favour by not running the risk of injury, and hopefully the lad comes back to Liverpool, and if he's got aspirations to play for England in the World Cup, then you'd imagine he's only going to get his head down and try and prove everybody wrong. If you've got to prove Gareth Southgate wrong, then so be it. But I don't think you have. But that's me.
Yeah, I think the reason Gareth Southgate doesn't play Trent Alexander-Arnold is because Gareth Southgate doesn't understand what Trent does, because none of Gareth Southgate's books that he's looked at in the coaching manual section of the FA library have anything on the kind of football that Liverpool play and the kind of football that Trent plays when he plays for Liverpool. I think that is just an alien concept to Gareth Southgate. He's probably got the same coaching manuals that Roy Hodgson left behind, and they're based on some theories that are outdated, in my opinion. But as you say, good luck to them. None of us are bothered about it. Also in internationals, Uruguay had a player score a goal for them that's apparently rubbish, but somehow managed to score for them.
Yeah, I don't think any player on international duty, apart from maybe Trent Alexander-Arnold, has had so much media attention and scrutiny over this international break, and maybe that's because we're in a Liverpool social media bubble that we see a lot of this. Maybe Harry Maguire, but he deserves all the scrutiny he can get because he's shite. But Darwin Núñez, was getting videos put out there of him training, and training's there for a reason to improve and make mistakes and make sure you don't make them in a real time situation. But he scored a goal against the formidable Canada, who actually are a decent up-and-coming international team, I'm told. And it was a good header of Luis Suarez, floated ball in. He climbed up high above the centre half and put his header downward into the corner. Something, people would label a typical number 9's goal. But it's good to see, and I think the lad has come off social media, which is something that somebody said he'd done back in his Benfica days. When he joined Benfica, he had a bit of a sketchy start in terms of, he wasn't scoring regularly and people were criticising him, and he got his head down. He's still only a young lad, remember. Took himself away from the media attention in terms of what he can see on a day-to-day basis, and just, got down to business and work. And I think if that was what caused his rise in form, and we settled into that Benfica team and scored several goals, then if that's the sort of path he's taken with us, then we've got a lot of positive things to look forward to for him.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it makes sense to come off social media and that, because it's just full. I don't know. It allows dickheads basically to bully people. That's what social media does. And a lot of the time, sadly, they're just echoing what some of not the social media, and I hate using the phrase mainstream media after Donald Trump hijacked it, but the regular media, if you like, that just love to write a headline that's often doesn't even cover the story that's underneath it that well, just to get some attention, just to cause trouble. And that's the side of the press. That needs to be changed as well. That's maybe something for another long podcast, but there's a reason why we say don't buy the Sun, because that really relates to one particular story the Sun did, where it lied on the front of its paper in 1989 about how people had died, and helped fuel misinformation for years. But there's not just the Sun. There's a lot of these papers that just, they're just looking after their owners, looking after themselves, just helping to feed into a world that's not a nice world. And I often try and say to myself, try and separate the back pages from the front pages, but a lot of the back pages are going that way now. And certainly when they like to just slag plays off and not think about the mental health of people, these are the same papers that when a celebrity, finds the pressure too much and sadly takes the ultimate measure to try and end it all for themselves, all that hassle, they're the same papers that are writing, obituaries praising them and saying how great they are, and yet it's often they're the outlets that have actually sent them down that path. So that's something I think needs to be legislated against. And people talk about the free press, but, freedom of speech is one thing, but you shouldn't have freedom to be an evil bastard, basically. So Anyway, moving on and being less serious for a minute. The season is starting again. We're back to it. The drought's over. We've got some games. And we did mention it briefly before about Brighton in the last podcast. And I think I would say at this point now, the best place to get some info on that game is probably by maybe not so much listening to us as listening to one of the other podcasts on here, the AI Scouted, because they go into loads of detail about every single game Liverpool play. It's Dave and it's Carl, and have a listen to that. You know, there's some good content in there, and have a listen to what we're going to face, and then maybe listen to AI Pro's Raw afterwards, and recorded straight after the game, where you know I'm on it occasionally as well. We get on and we just talk about what's just happened, and you know try and get it off all our chests. But after that, it's Champions League, isn't it? It's Rangers, and it's something of a big game, isn't it, for us? It's I don't know. There's a lot to be said. It's the city's rivals for the Eurovision Song Contest host.
You've just stole me line.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to throw it in. The winner takes it all. I can't believe you've done it. Yeah.
Well, what would you rather win? Like to be the host of the Eurovision Song Contest, or to win like 6 points out of the 2 games?
I'll take the 6 points. I don't want to know Poir, because you know anyone who is a fan of Eurovision knows that the UK and nil poir seem to go hand in hand. Although I think they've got this opportunity to host it because they came second last year to Ukraine. We won't delve into the political realms of Eurovision and voting.
No.
But yeah, it's a shootout for the Eurovision title, and yeah, maybe the winner does take it all, and it rightfully should be us. But I think it's a game. You know, I think we touched on it last week. You know, the media are going to love it, the Battle of Britain sort of thing. And am I right in thinking we've not played Rangers in a competitive form? I could be wrong on that.
I've heard that. I'll have a look now.
I'm not sure
that
if it's 100% correct start. I know obviously we've faced Celtic on a few occasions in European competition, but I'm not sure that we've actually faced Rangers on an actual competitive level standing. I know we've played them in a couple of friendlies, but you know, there's a lot of comparisons between us and Glasgow as a city. Maybe not us and Rangers as clubs because of their loyalist sort of support and our, you know, anti-loyalist, anti-establishment sort of approach to life and support. But you know, it's 2 cities who've got, you know, 2 clubs within them. They've got vibrant fan bases. As much as we slag everything off, they do turn up every week, and you know, they make noise, whether it's the positive or the boo, and they still make a noise. They make a din. And the people of Glasgow is often given similarities to the people of Liverpool, and sort of their outlook on life, their approach to, you know, friendly sort of welcoming cities, you know, having that sarcasm and wit about them, but you know, being passionate about being working class and doing all they can for the betterment of themselves and those around them. So I think it's going to be a good occasion for both sets of fans, whether you're going to Glasgow or coming to Liverpool. And I don't know if the games are played across like a 2-week sort of period. I think we played them and then there's a week off and then we play them again. You know, it is sort of, it's got that sort of 2-legged affair of an old European tie. You know, the good old days when you wouldn't have to go through all the group stages. It was just straight out shootout. So
there'll be a lot riding on it as well, won't there? Because if we play them twice in a row, by the time you've got those 2 games out of the way, you're down to your last 2, and you're better feeling for where you are in the group then and what your chances are. I
think this is crucial in terms of nominally Rangers are the weaker team in this group. Given what we faced, we found obviously Napoli far too good at the time, and Ajax, you know, a good challenge, but we got 3 points out of the Ajax game. If you can get 6 points across the 2 games against Rangers, it puts you on 9. I think the old sort of saying is if you get 10 points, you'll go through. So it gives you the opportunity then to find a point across 2 games, which you would like to think would be enough. it puts you in a positive position. It gives, the other two teams an opportunity to take points off one another. And given how hectic the schedule is prior to the World Cup, if you can get the Champions League wrapped up with a game to spare, it will give you the opportunity, as we said, to rotate the squad and give us opportunities to use players who maybe are coming back from fitness or maybe not playing on a regular basis, to use them in a game and give them 90 minutes or 60, 75, however Klopp sees fit.
Yeah, and I've just checked. We've never played Rangers. According to lfchistory.net, which is, as far as I'm concerned, the Bible of all sort of historic Liverpool facts and stats, we've played them 10 times in friendlies, but never in a competitive way. Never. Of the friendlies, 3 of them were testimonials by the look of it. And the first time we played them was in October 1892, when we were still a baby of a club. We got beat 6-1 at Ibrox. We've only played them twice at Anfield in friendlies. We won 1 and lost 1. The last time we played them at Anfield was in 1924. And the last time we played them at all, 2011, and that was at Ibrox, and we lost 1-0. The starting lineup we had Alexander Doney in goal.
Wow.
Glenn Johnson, Daniel Agger, Fabio Aurelio, Danny Wilson, Sebastian Coates, Maxi Rodriguez, who was running down the wing, Craig Bellamy, Andy Carroll, Lucas Leiva, and that lad who's played for us recently, Jay Spearing. They started that game.
Was that the Hodgson era or Dalglish?
Let me check.
It was around about then, one in 2011.
It feels like a Hodgson era, but it doesn't say on here actually. So
there's no Konchesky there, so I wasn't sure if it would be or not. Maybe that was prior to us signing the good old boy. It was around that, the 2010 to 13 was a bit of a blur. So yeah, it's going to be a historical moment in terms of a competitive fixture. And you've said many a time, the games come thick and fast, but it's how we like them. 2 games at Anfield as well. I am fortunate enough to be able to get to both of these. I've not been much this season. This weekend will be my second game. I only been to Ajax so far, and the aura of a European night, the nights are drawing in as well. By the time we kick off, it'll be nice and dark. The floodlights will be on. There'll just be that special sort of European night cackle in the air to feel, and it's getting a little bit chilly now as well. It's something that it's so nostalgic. You can't really take it away. I don't know about other teams, other countries, other stadiums, but many players and managers who've been to Anfield on a European night always reminisce about how special it is, and I feel so lucky to get to go there on a regular basis. And I think the fact it's Rangers, and given recent sort of situations that have happened in the UK with the passing of the Queen, I think there'll be a little bit of extra spice in the air as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think we saw how Glasgow Rangers local rivals reacted to the Queen's death, and yeah, well, each to their own and all the rest of it. I mean, I think that's more a message to Rangers than it is to the Queen. I think, if anything, it's more, it's and that's the bit. I mean, it's maybe not the best kind of spice to have, but every city has its spice between the clubs, and let's not go too much down that path. It's a shame that there is all the sectarian stuff still going on, but maybe rather than telling people off for saying things, people should get people talking and find out why they're so unhappy about one way or the other. That's another thing for another day, though. You can't just stand and shout at people without actually talking to them to see why they're not happy about something. But yeah, we're going to be. I think you're right. I mean, the way you describe that then is this now feels like the season is now starting. It's been a weird season so far. We've had this break. We've had this sort of chance to sort of reset ourselves a little bit. And as you say, off we go. I mean, Brighton first, and then playing under the floodlights. That's when we thrive. We thrive under floodlights. We, as a club, as players, as fans, you'll know yourself when you walk into the ground, however you get to the ground, there comes the point where, you're out your car, you're off the train, you're off the bus, whatever, and you walk into the ground. And you get that buzz that just sort of increases as you get nearer. That feeling that you get, that, I don't know, sort of a tingle almost, the excitement that you're nearly there, you're nearly at the ground, it's all going to happen. And, it's such, as you walk into the shrine, it's all lit up for you. It's a different buzz completely, isn't it, to a weekday game? It's hard, a weekend game or a week during the day game. It's hard to explain, but just has another element to it all, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm one of the fans who likes to go to one of the local pubs or, the local sorts of establishments in the area before the game. And, I think if the club had it their way, they would like us in the ground nice and early and, buying their sort of beverages and food that's on offer. But at the same time, you like to support a local business. That's just the way, the sort of the mentality is around the city. If you've got these small businesses who thrive on match day income, then why wouldn't you give them a bit of a helping hand? So that's that. But as you say, if you've been to Anfield, you've been fortunate to be to Anfield. In this current day and age, the big main stand does make it stand out a lot more, and the current Anfield Road and that's being built will only enhance that. But you could arguably walk down the narrow streets, and until you actually are on top of Anfield, it just sort of appears out of nowhere. And for such a big stadium, it's a weird thing to say, but people will know if they've sort of made that walk, that the nights being dark and the night that's the narrow, tight sorts of streets and the way that the layout is around Anfield, it does sort of appear out of nowhere, and it is that special feeling. As much as you do love a nice Saturday afternoon, 3:00, which we've got this week, and a nice bit of sunshine in the air on a nice summer's day. There is something special about the night games, and yeah, I can't wait for next week. I don't know if it's that obvious in my voice that I'm looking forward to it, but there's not a lot going on, as we've said, positivity-wise in the current climate of the UK, and it's that urge to get back, and we know this season's sort of going to be a bit of a mishmash, and we've got, I think it is 7 or 8 weeks now until the World Cup, and we've got to squeeze a lot in. So I think it just sort of amps up the appetite to want to get there and want to be involved, because it's going to be a really strange period between mid-November to, I think, Boxing Day is when we resume football, and even then, the build up to Christmas is going to be a bit weird, and we haven't got the game between Boxing Day and New Year where we normally have one day. That sort of breaks up your Christmas break and your tradition, as much as people moan about, the congested fixture list. If you are a football fan, there's something that sort of gives you something to look forward to between Christmas and New Year. That lull, that period of 6 or 7 days, it gives you, a goal to sort of maybe meet up with friends or maybe go to the game, whatever. And I think last year's one was the horrific Leicester game, so it wasn't so well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels like a sense of normality coming back. And when the games come thick and fast, it gives you a lot more topic of discussion. We've sort of scraped around everything now I think we can in this podcast today, because we're just a day early on any sort of regular team news, and we don't really know where we're going to lie. But in a couple of weeks' time, we've probably played 4 or 5 games by the time we maybe next get back together, and who knows where the situation could be in the season then, because 2 or 3 competitions we could be on our way to the next stage of the Champions League, and maybe back up in the top 4 or 5 positions in the league, which I think is more than anything vitally important that we start fast come Saturday and we put a marker down. I'm not really sure on the fixtures of other teams who they've got. The Manchester Derby is this weekend, I know that, but anybody else I couldn't tell you who's playing who. But we need to, at very least maintain our nearest rivals, and is it going to be Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea? Maybe at the moment, but probably in the long run, not really. So we need to stay level pegging with Man City, at least between now and the World Cup break, in what we return in points anyway. We've got to stay level with them, and if not, maybe ahead of them, because we have got a fixture in 2 weeks against them. If we can we can put 3 points on the board against them, which we've not done for a couple of years, it would be a huge benefit to us.
Yeah, and I think one thing as well is that I think Klopp will have the attitude like this, and the other players will have the attitude as well. It's like, that thing, take one game at a time. Don't worry what the other teams are doing, because you can't change what they're doing unless you're playing them. Assume on the one hand that they've all got easy fixtures that they're going to win, but also assume that even an easy fixture can turn out not to be, and that, it's not over yet, not by a long chalk. Don't give up just because you see another team doing well. Maybe they're just having a good spell. All teams have bad spells. It's, break yourself out of Sky's little bubble that it tries to put you in for every game, where every game is the be-all and end-all of the season until after it's over, when they start building up to the next game, which coincidentally ends up being the be-all and end-all of the season. That's not how it works in football. It's far more to it than that, It's not that. It's a simple game, but it's not as simple as that, as Gareth Southgate knows. And so it's time, to just get ready. I can't wait. We'll be back soon, won't we? And we'll have something to talk about, I'm sure. What we didn't do, we didn't get a chance. We were going to talk about the tweets with all the quotes, which we've been enjoying, because you sort of, we talk about this, we talk for an hour, and you kind of then you suddenly see a quote that you've said, something that you've said, and you're like, oh yeah, I don't remember that now.
Yeah, I think Dan Rhodes has got to take the credit for that. They've sort of popped up. Anyone who follows, obviously, you listen to this podcast, you probably do follow Anfield Index on social media, and you probably are in the Discord group, which, if you are and you can keep up with it, fair play, because it's far too fast for me. And I probably nip in and out of Discord maybe once every 2 or 3 days and see if there's anything to take note of. But yeah, if you are a member of the Discord channel and you enjoy that, then you're doing a lot more than I am, because it's far too fast. But I did ask the question, who is cutting up our podcast and putting our quotations out? And Dan Rhodes was the answer. So thanks to him. Hopefully it's serving some points of entertainment for those who maybe are listening to us for the first time. This is what we tend to bring on a regular basis, just an informal chat of what's going on around the world. We try and give a little spin on, the approach of people who live in the city and in the vicinity of the ground. And, you might agree with us, you might not agree with us, but what we do like to do is, welcome any sort of feedback. And if you like what we say, then please let us know. If you don't like what we say, then, let us also know via Twitter or via Discord. As I say, if you are on the Discord channel, there is a Scouser Tommies page right near the bottom of the list, but anything that is in there, we will see it and we will respond. So yeah, thanks to Dan, and hopefully there's a few more snippets from this latest podcast that can be cut up and put out there. And if Paul Hollywood is listening, hello.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be made up with his mention. He's been waiting a bit, he's just not saying anything to us,
Once he's put his loaf down and whatever.
Yeah, highlight of his career, that, I'm sure. The other thing, just to quickly finish on, really, is that this podcast is, we've grown up in the shadow of Anfield. That has been part of our life from the day we were born. We've loved the club since we were born. It's hard to explain how much the club is sort of embedded into the whole fabric of the city, and the Liverpool-Everton rivalry and all the rest of it, and what the city's like is, it's a unique city. And I know maybe everyone says that about the city that's close to their heart, but I do think Liverpool's a very unique city and a very special place, and we try and hopefully give you a taste of that. But also from a football point of view, we're not here to make headlines. We're not saying things that we think will make good sound bites. We're saying what we think. We're saying what we feel. Our aim isn't to do anything other than, to sort of set the world right, if you like, about what's going on with the club and what's going on with the city from our perspective. And, that means we're supportive of the club. We might sometimes not be supportive of the owners. Heaven forbid the time comes again, we might not be supportive of the manager. But if that's the case, if that's what we think the club needs, then we'll be critical, but we'll be supportive. And that's it. And that's, as you know yourself by now, that's what it is. Being a Liverpool fan is about supporting this club and wanting it to do well, and wanting to be part of its success. And, as we've just said, it's all back to normal soon. Football begins again. By the time you're listening to this, if you've not had a game to look forward to you've got one. It's on its way any second now. So again, thanks for listening. Thanks for always supporting us, and thanks for supporting the Reds. And yeah, we'll be back soon, and hopefully with lots to smile about. But for now, see you soon.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.